Hello and welcome to the Cowboys Takeover podcast post-game show brought to you by myself and Mr. Aaron James. I'm going to bring Mr. Aaron James in for what was such a beautiful, beautiful game. Mr. Aaron James, how are you, sir, after that wonderful shellacking we put on the Jets? A nice, you said if there's a 20-point win, could we be in the discussion for the number one team in the NFL? I do think it was a 20-point win, and they looked pretty dominant. They passed the test with flying colors, right?
Yeah. I'm a little bit biased here, but just based on what the Eagles have shown, I think that our offensive play, our defensive play warrant top 3 in NFL rankings. I would like to see that. We're probably going to have to wait another week, although, we're going up against, I believe, the Cardinals next week, who gave up a big lead to the G-men today. I was really hoping to, give it to the G-men on this post game and this afternoon, but looks like they came back to turn that deficit around, which was actually a pretty big statement. But yeah, I mean, so I think it's going to look like San Francisco, KC, who I think is still kind of right there with the Eagles, haven't been impressive. Eagles and Cowboys is probably how it rolls out, although I do think our boys deserve at least to be ranked at number 3. Granted, it is early in the season, but our sample size looks amazing.
I'm going to disagree, and I think they 100% deserve to be ranked number 1 at the moment. They went in, this Jets team, while a lot of people say that, they aren't at full strength, and a lot of people will say it's just the Jets with backup Zach Wilson. The Jets with backup Zach Wilson went out and beat the Buffalo Bills last week. And Dallas's defense made that offense look pedestrian. There was moments there in the first half where they did have a little bit of trouble containing Zach Wilson. So that's something I don't think you're really going to have to worry about much in the future. I just think it was one of those situations where their defense is so good, he had nothing to do but rush. You take Zach Wilson's 5 for 36 yards, you have Breece Hall 4 for 9, Michael Carter 2 for 8, Dalvin Cook 4 for 7. It felt like every time they rushed the ball, Dallas was in the backfield. They had numerous, run stuff, stop them behind the line of scrimmage. And then, so the one thing I was super concerned about, where it was how well was Dallas going to stop the run, I was quite impressed. The Jets got nothing going offensively in the run game outside of Zach Wilson in like that last 2-minute drive where he drove him down for a field goal. So I was pretty impressed with the defense. The offense, I would have liked to have seen them not kick all those field goals. I was upset because when you look at some of them, you have, a 26-yard field goal, a 30-yard field goal, a 21-yard field goal, a 35-yard field goal. Those are red zone field goals. Yes, we won, and we won convincingly. I'd like to see Dak and the boys put those ones in, especially against the team. Like I said, I was worried about them staying around. The defense did their job and kept them away, but you need to put those in the end zone, I felt like.
Yeah, I agree. That's something I have in my notes that we'll dive in a little bit deeper in a couple minutes. On the plus side, we got to get Aubrey some extra work and attempts and get some field goals under his belt. I believe a 55-yarder was his longest field goal attempt, which he made pretty comfortably. So that was really good to see. And yeah, I mean, I think the spirit just behind all those rush attempts and being a little bit content in the red zone, the play calling was just a little bit was safe. Yeah. I mean, that let's call it what it is. So, we got to be mindful of that, because as we get deeper into the season, we're going to be looking at some of these red zone percentage figures and conversions, and then we just got to take a half step back and realize that you know a lot of it's just going to be because we've been so comfortable. Our leads have been so comfortable. Our defense has been so dominant, and a lot of analysts are going to say, "Oh, well, you make the other team, one dimensional." It is what it is. We have a high-powered offense, and we can move the ball and we can put points up. But it's just a complete team that we have, and you can't knock them for being able to put up points against a championship caliber defense.
Can you remember the last time that we had a complete team like this? Like this defense, man, this defense really feels like those special season defenses that teams have. Like I remember the Chicago Bears when that defense took them all. They took Rex Grossman, to a Super Bowl. Then that Baltimore Ravens defense. And I know, they're good for long periods of times. We all remember those, that Seattle Seahawks defense. There's always those special defenses in a season. I think the Eagles may have qualified for that last year too. But I think that, so through 2 games, they have, 10 sacks, 5 interceptions, a fumble recovery. They've given up 10 points. Total passing yards is 214. Total rushing yards is 172. Total overall yards 386. Dallas had like 350 by themselves today. So I understand it was the Jets and the Giants. Jets did win last week, and the Giants put up 20 or 31 today, basically in the second half on the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the Arizona Cardinals aren't a good team, but this defense, man, is special. And you saw it once they got that lead and they had that opportunity. There was a lot of second and long, third and longs where the boys were just able to pin their ears back. Micah had 2 sacks today, potentially could have had 2 or 3 more outside of some, there were some holding calls on him where he got held and couldn't get there. The one time he broke through the line, led strictly to an interception. The dude forced a fumble and recovered his own fumble. Like, this kid is so special, and I'm so thankful he's on our team, and I'm so fearful for the contract that he is about to get.
Yeah, that will be, we'll be talking about that later on in the season. But if I would have told you, Jason, that we were going to allow for under or over 65 rushing yards, what were you?
I would have said over 100%. I thought they were going to be rushing a lot today. And just by watching the game, every time I watched, like, outside of Zach Wilson's scrambles, Cook was getting hit in the backfield every time. Breece Hall, every time he touched the ball, Lawrence, we saw right in the beginning, Lawrence coming off that edge, Micah coming off that edge, Micah hitting the gap in the middle to shut him down and get back, tackles for losses. I would have said over, but look at the game. I'm sure it's got to be close. It's got to be close.
Yeah. Well, if you take away those rushing scramble yards that Wilson was running for his life, now a couple of them were called QB draw plays in the second half. They're under 40 yards. I mean, that is total dominance for a team that was looking to come in to run against, and specifically run against, our defense. And so, yeah, I mean, and we did have a lot of guys in the box. But, that was against one of the best offensive linemen crew in the league, arguably top 3. I mean, our boys played smash mouth football today. And as I'm talking, the Denver Broncos just hit a Hail Mary against the Commanders. They're going for 2 to tie it up to force overtime.
Oh, wow.
0 seconds on the clock. Pass incomplete. It looked like PI. No PI called. So the Commanders are going to win.
2-0. Okay, well, that's not bad. Listen, that's not the team I thought would be 2-0. But everybody in the divisions, 500 or better. So it's a great division. I think your segue into those rushing yards, that really, to me, leads us into what were the highs today. I think that rush defense, 100% was one of them. I couldn't believe it. These last two games against two teams that you thought would be very, very good running the ball, especially against a defense like Dallas's, who's uh, can't really stop it. To me, that was huge. And the second one was CeeDee Lamb. You know, he's a problem. 11
Mhm.
catches, 143 yards, as you see there, 13 targets. He was all over that field. He is something special, man. And they couldn't stop him. Like he looked so good. And he just everything that was thrown his way, basically, he was catching. Pollard had a pretty okay game. He showed some flashes. I think he was about 3 yards a carry, because they knew they were running at the end. But he had 7 catches, as you see there. It was a complete team. And Dak just looked really good. Dak made the right throw. He didn't try to force anything. He took what was given to him. And, I think he was like 31 of 35. There was at one point where he had like 22 passing attempts. And it was just felt like he was completing everything. 31 of 38. There you go. Took
Yeah.
one sack for 7 yards. He had a couple scrambles that were pretty good. Overall, I'm to say against this defense where I thought Dak could get into some trouble, Dak played great. You're kind of seeing. I said this is what I thought we needed to see from him this season. So that offense and CeeDee Lamb was quite impressive. Like you weren't even worried that Brandon Cooks wasn't there. You didn't even feel it.
Yeah, I agree. And the reason why Dak was so efficient, we got to give the credit where the credit's due. Coach Mike McCarthy. If you look at some of the play designs, um, Dak, making it easy for him to look at his reads, the play calling, especially in the first half, and specifically, I guess, on that first drive when we went 3 for 3 on third down conversions. That's because of film study and preparing your quarterback on what the looks are going to be for a dominant defense like that. Now, if going into the game, if we would have had a sneak peek and saw that Dak was going to throw 38 times, I would have been like, oh no.
Something's going on. We need to throw to win if he's throwing that much. I would have thought that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. And I would have said, hopefully he throws it for 24 to 26 times. That means, he was efficient and it was a comfortable game. And I mean, it didn't really look like a matchup at any point of the game, even though, going into halftime, it was still a one possession game. It just didn't look like, outside of the big play that the Jets were able to pull off. You just didn't see any life available for them. So I have Mike McCarthy as on my high, and as we mentioned in our pregame, or I should say, yeah, in our pregame, Stephon Diggs, his numbers uh, basically look the same as our boy CeeDee Lamb. So they looked at the tape and they said, hey, how did Diggs get 10 catches against this defense? And they said we're gonna do that for CeeDee Lamb. Also, Jalen Tolbert, he looked really fresh. I liked his route running. He was getting separations. He almost had a touchdown that ended up getting flagged for PA. But I was happy to see his production. And like you said, we have a nickname for our defense, the Doomsday
They really
Crew.
are, dude. They're so. I still don't like Diggs is getting beat there. It was at the end of the game was over, and
Yeah.
Malik Hooker did make up for it. I wish, but I was like, I'm sitting there and like he got beat so bad, and Hooker just made a great play in center field. But outside of that, yeah, there's a couple. Gilmore got flagged for PI. I think Deron Bland got flagged for PI, but this defense is opportunistic, and when you're giving them games like that where they know they can just go after a quarterback, a lot of that was Zach Wilson running for his life too. Like he had to be
Mhm.
on the move. He was not comfortable the whole game. So I'm quite impressed. I don't know. I can't remember this. So I'm assuming they're still probably going to be the number one ranked defense. Who was it? Who was the ESPN guy to the safe? What was his name? What's his name? Said they could be number one. You were preaching it. You've been preaching it all off season. This defense, and it really, man, 10 points in 2 games, regardless, it's the NFL and most games are won by a score. So to give up, you're giving up 5 points a game, I'll take that every day of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe the number one defense last year in points allowed was the Niners, and it was around 16, 17. So, I mean, if we can get to 10, that's all time great. But anywhere really under 16 to me is where we want to be.
Yeah, it's definitely. I don't think it's going to stay this good. We're going to face. Yeah, we got San Fran coming up, who's a very complete team. We play the Eagles twice. It's just good to see them beat. Yeah, like it's nice to see them. It's nice to see Dak not giving it away, not making the dumb mistakes. And I know last year I feel like was an anomaly. It's great to watch this team. And it's amazing when you see, man, you got Micah Parsons. I at 11. You got this kid at 11. 10 teams passed him over. I think the Eagles passed him over too, or we might have just jumped right in front of the Eagles and got him, one or the other. I think they got Devonta and then we got Micah. But it's like, how could this kid is so special. Like, even you heard Romo saying this kid, you're comparing him to LT. He wants to be defensive player, or he wants to be MVP, and it takes performances. Like they said on the air, you have to do everything to get MVP as a defensive player. You can't just go get, we've seen 20 sack guys not even sniff the MVP. You have to do it all. And he really looks like he's taking that next step. And I think a lot of it has to do with, the defense as a whole is quite impressive. I think the whole game was a high. I think we have to kind of talk about any lows we saw. The couple things I didn't like, I stated earlier, I didn't like Diggs giving up that big play. It's late in the game. I get the game's underhand. Don't jump routes. Whatever you're doing, you can't do that. They didn't block well for rushing. Outside of if you take his Pollard's one run out for like 20 plus yards, he had 20 plus carries and like 50 yards. He would have had 24 carries for 49 yards. So that's one thing I didn't like. And then another, Tyler Smith's replacement went down. So those are a couple things we're going to need to figure out, with, I think the first play when, forget the kid's name, came in, number 66, he made a nice block. And then the play right after that, he let, Quinnen Williams get right through. So it's, we're losing. I didn't like that. So we're going to have to figure that out, shore that up. I don't know. They got to figure out the offensive linemen getting hurt too much. I don't like it.
Yeah, they're getting dinged up a little bit. And one of my lows is in going into that fourth quarter, one of the fourth quarter drives, you got Zach Martin in the game. Pollard, ran into him, kind of went under his legs. And
I got nervous when he was down.
Yeah, he's one tough son of a gun. Zach Martin is, but you want to be smart. And we're going to have to be smart throughout the rest of the season because it's a long season. And even, when we have games like this already under the belt, I don't really want Parsons in there. Diggs and Gilmore, they can alternate, and I'm speaking specifically to the fourth quarter. You don't want to let another team get momentum in the third quarter to make a run, and you have to, go back to your game plan and put require Dak to make some long completions. But we got to protect our O-line, and Tyler Smith goes another week to recover. We're still waiting for Donovan Wilson to come back. He's one of our sack leading DBs. So it's going to be. I'm pumped and excited to see him come. So Dan Quinn still has, he still has. I'm sure a lot of creativity and ideas that he wants to bring to showcase. But we just we just don't need it yet.
Yeah, I agree. There's so much you can do. Like they showed today like where they're lining Micah up at, and he, you can put him over. He really feels like an Aaron Donald type of guy. He does feel like LT. He feels like eventually he's going. You know he's going to get 2 Defensive Player of the Years. He's that type of guy. It feels like he could be, the MVP with the way this defense is. If they play this special all year, because you can't guard this guy. The only way he doesn't win something is if it's something like you said, where we're up big a lot of these games, and he's coming out and not going and just getting some free sacks. He got one today. He could have had 2 at the end if the one didn't get called for holding. Or he got the arm on Wilson. He was able to escape, but there was a hold. Man, they're just so special. But I do think I get worried. The Jets had 7 tackles for losses today. They got to shore up that O-line against a team like the Eagles, against San Fran. That's not going to play because those teams can bring it. So that's something I want to see taken care of over the next few weeks. And whatever that looks like for the coaching staff.
Yeah, still a lot of time to get polished for those big showcases coming. So I got my biggest takeaway for this game, and I don't think I'm being prisoner of the moment here, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this, Jason, but I believe my biggest takeaway after 2 weeks, I understand, but we're not missing Kellen Moore. I think we're good. Mike McCarthy knows what he's doing. I really like a lot of the play designs. They're going off of tape. They're believing in their guys. Dak looks like the superior Dak that we've seen before. We haven't seen a consistency in a full year, but I believe it was that first year we had Amari, right, with 2019 time frame.
Yeah,
that's what he looks like.
I'm right there in agreement with you. I wouldn't have been if it wasn't the Jets, but the Jets defense, you get their offense is stagnant and exactly. That Jets defense, they just held the Bills to like 13 points last week.
Yeah.
And it's so Dak went out there and really handled them. It's kind of upsetting if I'm a Jets fan knowing we have a dude Sauce Gardner. And, in back-to-back weeks, we gave up 150 yards. That feels like to each two top receivers. You feel like Sauce should be following them. But I can't agree. I can't disagree with you. That performance against the Jets, Dak had a great game. He got the ball where it needed to be consistently. He didn't try to make the big play. He went out there and did exactly what he's supposed to do in that maturation process. And it's something, we've talked about, and I think I've said multiple times, Dak needs to take that next step. And he looked like it today against a great defense. I really wanted to go Dak. I wanted to go Dak in that offense. But I just think that this defense is special, because it's the NFL. You're not going to, if you make the best of the best of the best of the best, make the NFL. Yeah. And Dallas is making this defense are making guys look silly. So I'm really excited. It's tough because, like you said, our schedule in the beginning, we played the Cardinals and the Patriots. Patriots could be a little bit of a test, but our first real test is in the week 5. So I'm excited to watch this defense just eat these terrible, terrible offenses for the next few weeks. It's going to be so much fun to watch. They almost had another touchdown today, but they have so many guys that have a nose for the ball and a nose for that quarterback. I do think it's going to be, I think they're going to be a top 3 defense this year. I didn't think they could, but watching these first few weeks, they have so much talent. Odigizua, guy had what's he got, 4 or 5 sacks in the season so far for the team.
He looks good.
He looks
really good.
He's getting to that quarterback. I think he had 1 today.
Yeah,
they had 2 last week. They are that defensive line. They have so many guys that can go after the quarterback. So I think to me that's the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway. And that they're not giving up the yardage rushing like I thought they would. Because the Jets, I think a lot of people assume the Jets would come out and run a lot and be able to run. and they couldn't. So I think to me that defense is my biggest takeaway. They're going to be a problem.
Yeah, for everyone. And I don't mind you saying they're going to be top 3 defense. I'm calling them to be top number 1 defense, but there's really not going to be a lot of separation in the NFL between the top 3. There usually isn't. They're usually kind of, neck and neck. Maybe the number 1 team compared to the number 3 has better points per game allowed.
It'll be pretty close.
3 to 4. And there's nuances into that. But the way it is, between week 1, week 2, if we are the number 1 defense when it comes to rushing yards allowed, man, that completely flips the script from last year.
Not giving up. They're giving up, 60, 75, 80 yards a game rushing. No, that can't be right. 172 total rushing yards. Yeah, so it's like 8. That seems like a lot. 80 yards a game. 80 yards seems like a lot.
That does seem like a lot. Is that?
So 108 for the Giants. Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
but it's still that's still not. I guess that's not bad.
Yeah, and a lot of that is to quarterbacks. Daniel Jones.
Is.
Yeah, between Daniel Jones and Zach Wilson, they're probably looking at 70 yards. Because Zach Wilson had 36, and I think Daniel Jones was up there. But be it whatever the case may be, not every quarterback is going to have legs, like those guys. And if that's what it's going to take for other teams to try to get some yards on us, that the quarterback running for their life is going to get some yards.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that. But that's a good game. I'm so excited. I cannot wait. I can't wait for Arizona next week. I know you guys, all the Cowboys fans must be ecstatic. All the Cowboys haters, they're watching now. They're watching this defense. Oh, they're not that good. Mike is, I'm sure. Diggs isn't that. Yeah, Gilmore. They're looking, and they're all the haters are going to be watching too, which is wonderful because you can hear it. But I can't wait. I know Mr. Aaron James and myself can't wait to come back Thursday and really go preview with the Arizona Cardinals. That's who we play next week coming up. It should be a good game. They're not a good team. They blew, a great lead to the Giants this week. They're 0-2. They gave up 31 points to the Giants, who we couldn't do anything against. They don't have Kyler Murray. So, Mr. Aaron James and myself will dive into that this Thursday. We want to thank you guys for listening this week, and thank you for tuning in to both the pregame and postgame show. We really appreciate you all. You guys can follow us on all of our social medias, the Cowboys Takeover Podcast on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook. We really appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening. 2-0, baby. 2-0. I think we both had that, though, right?
We did.
I think we both have them about 4-0, at least going through that. I think
exactly.
So let's keep this gravy train rolling. Let's keep Dak looking good against these subpar teams, build that confidence up, and let's get that defense eating. For another week of Cowboys Takeover Podcast, I'm Jason Kent. It's Mr. Aaron James. Thank you. Go Cowboys.